Hello and welcome everyone to the Cross-Cultural Couples Podcast, the place where we discuss everything facing cross-cultural couples. My name is Erica El Hilali.
And I am Hamada El Hilali.
We've been married for almost 13 years. It'll be 13 years pretty soon here, but we've been together for a decade and a half. I'm from America and Hamada is from
Morocco.
Yes. So we're a very cross-cultural couple. So today we're going to talk about how, as cross-cultural couples, are there some tools that can help us? Are there specific things or ways we can look at each other to try to figure out what is our identity, whether that's based in just who we are as a person or the cultural context that we come from. So if you think about it, there's a lot of stuff that you may get in your upbringing because you were born in America. That may not necessarily be who you are, and that can grow and change over time. So when you're in a relationship, though, it's kind of a good point to assess, okay, what are things that are truly who I am that I want to continue, and what are things that are part of my culture that maybe are a little bit different. So instead of just focusing only on the cross-cultural component, we're actually going to go into the big five personality traits from psychology. These kind of give us a starting point to start to say, who are we as a couple? What can we do to really understand who we are and get a framework for trying to understand each other?
That sounds good.
All right, so I wanted to start off with a quote. I saw this on Pinterest, and it says, it didn't have who it was quoted by or anything, but it was a good quote. It said, "The happiest couples never have the same character. They have the best understanding of their differences."
That's a cool quote.
And I think it really applies to this podcast because I don't think you're going to find any two people who have the exact same character, even if they're in the same culture. So I think it's good that from this standpoint, we're going to start looking at really trying to understand each other's differences, how you, if you're in a cross-cultural relationship, how you can start to identify what those differences are, and then really understand them and help you navigate your relationship. So with that, before we get started, do you have any comments, Samada, or things you'd like to share?
No, I'm just excited to go through these five differences of personalities.
Yeah.
I'm just excited. Yeah, let's discuss them.
All right, great. And we're both drinking some Moroccan mint tea.
I made it.
Yes, Hamada made some great Moroccan mint tea. It's the national drink of Morocco.
It's easy. It's not even hard to make.
So what goes in Moroccan mint tea before I get started?
Moroccan Mint Tea, it's easy. The way I make it is different. I boil water. I put some dry tea, green tea, and then I put some Moroccan mint. You can either use fresh one or dry one. Since it's the winter here and I don't want to go to the store and buy some, I just sit home and I use my dry mint tea. And in Morocco, they put a lot of sugar. I don't do sugar, so I just drink it without sugar and it tastes good.
Yeah, I like it. It's really refreshing. I like the mint for sure.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll get started on the big five personality traits. So the first one we'll talk about, and this one is really important in our context of cross-cultural couples, is openness. So There's 5 different traits, and there's a range. It's a kind of, think of it like a scale. So there's a spectrum of, you're either on one end, the other, or somewhere in the middle.
Hmm.
So on the for openness specifically, this is relating to imagination, feelings, actions, ideas. If you score lower on this openness trait, you tend to be practical, conventional, and prefer routine. If you're on the higher side for openness, you tend to have a more curious characteristic. You tend to have a wide range of interests, and you tend to be more open to adventure. So I think, especially if you, I know myself, I score very high on the openness spectrum, and you do as well. Both of us really love to travel, to learn about different cultures. We're always discovering new
New places.
hobbies or activities. I also think Hamad is very artistic. He's a musician, an actor. He does photography. He'll draw. Like, he always has. I feel like I'm always discovering some new hidden talent that he has.
There's more to come.
So
Not really that challenging, but
you are like,
just,
he's
I'm
really
just
good.
learning.
He has some really good drawings he's done. He's a great rapper. He's great at a lot of different artistic pursuits. So I definitely think that if you tend to be more artistic, you tend to have more higher on the openness spectrum. And I think it's really important, as we talk about being in a cross-cultural couple, if, let's say, maybe you just aren't as high on that spectrum, that may be something that's good for you to know about yourself or your partner. If they're more conventional and stuck, not necessarily stuck, but they're just more comfortable with their own way of doing things, their own routines, there may be things that are harder for them to be flexible on and change. So
It's true.
I do think that there's things you can do to either recognize in yourself or in your partner where you're at on that, and it's a good thing to talk about as a couple, where you guys are at on that spectrum.
Sounds good.
Do you see anything in me that's more open, or do you see anything that's
The thing I like about you is like you are curious about other cultures. Like you really like put time and effort to learn about other cultures and just I like how you find other cultures intriguing. You know,
mm-hmm.
you find them so like you just so much interest on other cultures and how you are really fair when it comes to race. You have a good fairness on you when it comes to race. Yeah,
Yeah,
and I think
thanks.
that's really important.
Yeah, and I think honestly that started before I even met you.
When that started,
I think I've always been curious about people just in general. Um, but when I was in elementary school, my best friend, still friend, dearest friend today, Kibra, she is from, her parents are from Eritrea. And so I was always really curious about learning about Eritrea, about the culture, about the politics, about um, even like the cooking. Like her mom is a great cook, and so I think that um, when I learn about people, I like to learn about their culture. I feel like it's such a good way to learn about who they are.
well,
Uh,
when all that started though.
it's always been that way since I was a kid.
Mm,
I'm just curious about people, I think, and it
that's
helps.
cool.
I think when you understand cultures, it helps you understand other people.
Probably, yeah, you're right. Because you don't know what's the reason behind something until you know the culture behind it, and then
Yeah.
it makes sense to you.
Yeah, I think like you understand when you understand where somebody's coming from, you can understand why they do things a certain way, um, what's important to them, things like that. So,
I agree.
yeah.
That's cool.
I mean, I do think people are not necessarily like just because you come from a culture doesn't mean that's the only thing that makes you who you are, but I do think it's definitely a factor.
It is. It is.
So the next one on the list is conscientiousness. So this one is relating to competence, self-discipline, thoughtfulness, and goal-driven. So if you're lower on the score, you're impulsive, careless, and disorganized. If you're higher on this score, you tend to be hardworking, dependable, and organized. So I think for me, I tend to be higher on this. Definitely with being goal driven. I do think that I'm more thoughtful than you are.
Probably. Thanks. She's more thoughtful than I am. Did you hear that? It's not live. Unbelievable. That's okay. I'll forgive you.
Yeah,
No
so
problem.
I think that's just but again it goes back to the personality. That's just who somebody is. So
You're right.
um I would say I'm maybe not as self-disciplined as I'd like to be. And there's definitely things that I'm probably more impulsive on than I should be. So
That's cool.
I would say too that I think I wonder about these sometimes because I think that, for example, some of these values are more, or some of these traits are more valued in a culture versus another. So, for example, like being organized may be more valued, I think, maybe in America than in Morocco, at least from my
Yeah,
understanding.
because a lot of people in Morocco, for example, just like when you guys go to the market and buy like vegetables or fruits, you give him like for example $5 and you're waiting for change. He'll just get change from his pocket. He doesn't have like a cash register or any of that. He just puts his hand in his pocket and gives you the change. So it's not like an organized way to do business. The new businesses, yeah, but like the old business in the market, they just put their money in their pocket and use it that way.
Yeah, and I think even just like the customer experience when you go into the Medina in the old market, it's just people everywhere. It's pretty chaotic. There's like even if you go to a clothing stall, it's like there's just piles of clothes and you have to like sort through them. It's not like
They're new though.
they're not like hung on a rack or anything. So yeah, I do think you're right though. It goes back to just business expectation and maybe consumer expectation or something. And
Exactly.
and I do think the business does impact the culture. If business is certainly in America, business is so important and such a huge part of American culture that
Yeah.
Hamada and I will joke sometimes that Morocco has a king. America doesn't, obviously, but I do sometimes say that we don't have a king, but we have business. I think that,
Yeah.
presidents come and go, but business always sticks around in one way or another in America. So
That's pretty
maybe business is our king.
cool. Business in America is king. Yeah.
Yeah. So the next one on the list is extroversion. So if you're, and again, it's a spectrum. So there's introverts, omniverts. Omniverts are people who are in between the two, and then extroversion. So if you are lower on the spectrum, you're quiet, reserved, withdrawn. If you are higher on the extroversion spectrum, you're outgoing, warm, and you seek adventure. So, that part about seeking adventure is important when we talk about cross cultural exchanges because if you are extroverted, you may be more comfortable in new situations, especially new social situations. So, whether that's going to a new cultural event where maybe you're the only white person there, or you're the only Moroccan there, or
Yeah.
whatever.
Hmm.
Certainly in Morocco, there's been plenty of times I've been at events where I'm the only non-Moroccan there.
Especially Moroccan weddings,
Yeah.
and when you wear all those like Moroccan like dresses, and everybody look at you.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so yeah, but like I don't know, I always think it's fun. I always love going to a Moroccan wedding or
By the way, Moroccan wedding will start at 4 in the afternoon and then go overnight to like 6 in the morning.
they don't stop.
They don't
They
stop.
dance all night. You will dance till the dawn for sure.
Oh, and if you're like 8 years old, too bad, you have to stay up. Or if you're 2 years old, too bad, you have to stay up.
Little kids are at the wedding that late. It's crazy. It's crazy. When Hamada's sister got married, we had
That's crazy.
it was pretty intense. But I remember we have a niece and nephew in Morocco, and they both ended up like falling asleep in the back of a car just because they were so tired. They were like, "Let us just take a little nap." So it's so fun. I love a Moroccan wedding. It's really fun.
They're fun. They
Yeah.
really are.
But I will say, like, if I was super introverted, that would probably be a really hard experience for me to, like, be with people all night dancing, partying. Like, that would be a pretty hard experience. But yeah, so I do think if you are extroverted, it helps you if you're in different social situations, especially that are not familiar to you or where you stand out or whatever. So,
Yeah.
yeah. The next one is agreeableness. This is if you're cooperative, trustworthy, and good natured. So if you're higher on this, you're helpful, trusting, and empathetic. And if you're lower on this, you're critical, uncooperative, and suspicious. I would say you're probably more agreeable than I am. Like Hamad is super, super nice. Like he is friends with everybody. Like he can talk to
No,
anybody in
I'm
the
a
world.
friend. I'm friend with everybody except the people I'm not friend with.
Yeah. So he is like
You
he
know, I try to see the good on people. Like everybody out there just trying to make a living, just trying to make their family happy, and just some are working for their kids, some of them are working for their sisters, for their moms or dads. So I'm just trying to be nice to everybody and just not go out of my way to make their day miserable. I try to look at it from their perspective and just try to be nice as much as possible.
yeah. And I mean I think I tend to be high on this too, but not as high as you are. I just think you're really good natured and um
Well, then we grew up in Morocco. Like in Morocco, we
yeah.
all live by each other, so we see each other every single day. Like you go on the street and you meet like 10 people in your way to get like a price from the store. So it's like you get used to that, and every day that becomes like your social life, and then you become selfish. You become not selfish, like you become social without even knowing it. I think.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Where Hamada grew up in Akari, which is a neighborhood in Rabat, Morocco, you literally can open his front door and you will be greeted with 10 or more children. They're just all playing in the street. You can hear them pretty much all day and into the night until it's bedtime. So, yeah, I do think that your community was just so like close together. You just went out in the street and you played. And I do think in America we used to be that way. Like I remember my mom talking about that. Like where she grew up, like you would just go and play in the street. And I think my generation in America, I was born in the 80s, so we're the first generation to kind of stop doing a lot of that. Mainly because like kids started getting kidnapped and bad stuff started happening, so parents got scared and kids stop playing outside in the street, but which is kind of sad. But I do think that that makes it where maybe we don't have as many social skills anymore. So
But
it's
like
kind of
if you go
sad.
to like I think some old neighborhoods you have like they live close to each other here. Those people they see a lot of neighbors, you know.
Yeah.
I think more
It's just not as common
not
as
as
it
common.
used to be like when my mom grew up. So, well, and I think that's a good point too about how a culture can change over time. Like different factors will impact
Mm.
different things and that can change things. So, it's a good point. Well, and I also think too that the part about being maybe suspicious for me, I think I grew up totally different than you in that um so my dad got sick and then he passed away. So I was raised by a mom who was a widow. And so like they were all girls in our house and so it was very um we were just a lot more cautious and we were taught to be more suspicious about everything because it was just I don't know if it was the culture we were in or more just the circumstance, but definitely I was raised with more suspicion or just to not always trust everything you see just on face value. So yeah,
Mm. Yeah.
but
But
yeah, and I
Morocco
think
again is an old country, you know. People live there. Like if you go to some neighborhoods in Morocco, like cars cannot go there. Like
yeah,
for
it's
example in
true.
Fas or like in the old city, you can only use donkeys to go through the cities. And that's what makes like I'm not saying Morocco is better or America is better. I'm just saying that
Well, it's safer for kids because
it's
like
safe
it's
for
not like
kids. So
there's just
that's
there's
how they
cars everywhere.
yeah, you're
Yeah,
right. That's how they become more social because people live together for so long. So they had to get along, I guess.
yeah,
But like I said, there's always good and bad thing every culture you go.
that's true.
So I don't know if that's a good thing in Morocco or a bad thing in Morocco to be that social. You know, I don't know. Maybe not to be social is the good way. So
No, I do think it's well, and you guys are more of a collectivist culture where we're more individualistic. So I think that the experiences that you had in Morocco, you really relied on the people around you and who who you were friends with, who was in your family, your extended
yeah,
family.
yeah,
I also think that the part about being helpful is really interesting too because um, I actually was kind of taught to like not actively try to help people because you didn't know if you could trust them. So that's something that I was kind of raised where it's like, yes, you can help people, but like have your guard up if you are helping them.
well, you kind of have to like really like trust people and like help them. You don't have to worry about what they are gonna do. You know,
Mm-hmm.
as long as you're doing what you believe, it's a good thing. It doesn't matter what the other people do against you or for you. You know, as long as you know that you're doing the right thing, I think that's what really matters. I don't think anybody should have any blocks or anybody, or like have their guards up or anything. They should just do what feels good, and you don't need to see how they're gonna react or how they're gonna talk to you. Whatever they do, that's their problem, not yours. I
Yeah,
think.
no,
I don't
that's
know.
true. That's true. Well, and I also noticed like when I'm in Morocco, people are really helpful. Like I know that like even if you're a guest in somebody's house, they're so welcoming and so especially guest culture in Morocco is so like based on you have to make the guests feel welcome
Yeah.
and like they're just so generous.
You're talking about gas. You know, in Morocco, if you go to Morocco, if you get stuck sometimes and you don't have a hotel or anything, just go to like a neighborhood, like a regular neighborhood, and just knock on the door of somebody and just say, I'm a guest of God. And, you know, that's been cultural for a long time in Morocco. And they don't have to let you say, but they kind of have to let you say at least for 3 days till you find your way. It's true. I don't think a lot of people do it these days, but a lot of we have done it. I personally, my mom have done it like once or twice.
Yeah.
So
Well, even like other things too, like if we went to Morocco, like if we visited Morocco, we couldn't stay in a hotel. It would be so rude if
I
we
know.
didn't stay with your family.
Yeah,
They would think, "Oh, this is like a big shame that we that we didn't that we
I
stayed
know.
in a hotel and you didn't stay with us." So yeah, it's definitely we're like here. It's I mean, definitely people will like if people come and visit, they'll stay in their house or whatever. But it's totally normal if you get a hotel if you go visit somebody.
Yeah. Like even
So
for the food, like if you go to a family in Morocco and you eat and you don't eat their food, it's kind of like rude.
mm-hmm.
But even if you're done eating and then the family has to be like, oh, eat more. Yeah, and you'd be like, no, I'm full. And you're like, no, eat this, please, please, eat this,
Mm-hmm.
please. And it's like, I'm full. And it's like, no, in Morocco, like they really will push food on you. And for example, here, if you tell somebody I'm full, they'll be like, okay, that's it. Or so you see how the culture is different.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you go to Morocco, let's say your husband is Moroccan and his family keeps telling you, oh no, eat this, eat this, eat this, eat this, please, and you say I'm full. Please don't take it personal. That's just how they are, and they just
Mm-hmm.
want to show you that you are welcome in their house. That's all.
Yeah.
One day, my mom, she was a young kid, and she went to see her cousin, not her cousin, her dad's brother, uncle.
Okay.
So she went to see him, and she was only like 7 years old, I think. And then she was eating, and she kept eating, and her uncle kept going, "Okay, here, eat more, eat more." She keeps eating more, but then she got so full, and she couldn't say no. I don't want more, and she starts crying. So it's just one thing that Moroccan families will do. Like the purpose from this stories is just because like when you marry to somebody from another culture, don't assume the bad. Just maybe like let things go and just come back another day and ask why they did that because trust me, it would have something behind it.
Yeah. I remember when we first got married, like or when we were first even dating. This is before we got married. I was at his house and like they just kept pushing me. They're like they Moroccans will eat communally, so they'll have a big pot of tagine, which is like a big dried stew. It's like in a clay pot. It's really delicious if you've never had one. Highly recommend it. But anyway, they all sit in a circle and they'll eat the tagine, and they normally save the chicken kind of towards the end or whatever the meat is. And I remember there was a big piece. There were pieces of chicken and we'd eaten all the vegetables, and then they kept pushing chicken at me, and I was like, no, no, I'm good, I'm good. And I was like,
Eat this.
I know, and I was like, no, I'm really okay. And it was like I didn't for me, I hadn't realized that that was just the culture at that point, but now I do, and I'm like fine with it. But it is, yeah, it's just don't assume like, oh, why are they doing this, this is crazy. It's like, no, that's just part of the culture.
But like the main idea from all this is know your personality and know the personality of the person you are with. And just don't assume anything, honestly. Just don't assume anything. Just things happen. Maybe like it bothers you right now, but just wait maybe until like next week when everything is calm, and then you can discuss it in an easy way. And it would have something behind. Like even right now, Erica sometimes will tell me, "Oh, your tone is hard," or like your tone is
Mm-hmm.
harsh, and I'm like, "No, my tone is not. Maybe that's
Mm-hmm.
how I grew up, but it's really I didn't mean it, or I didn't mean to be mean or anything." So yeah, so that's all.
Yeah, and the next one is the last one we're going to talk about is neuroticism. So this one, if you're higher on the neuroticism spectrum, you could be anxious, prone to more negative emotions. So just think of the more neurotic tendencies. And then if you're lower on this, you tend to be calm, even tempered, and secure. And I would say both of us are lower on this spectrum. We both tend to be pretty calm and even tempered. But I will say, like, I notice people in your own family who are definitely high, or even in my own family who are higher on the spectrum. So I don't necessarily think it really matters as much of the culture you're in. Even within the same culture, the same family, there can be differences on these.
Yeah.
But it's kind of good to know, where people are at, and what is going
Yeah.
on in your own, what dynamics are going on in your own relationship.
Yeah. And like, just don't, like, again, I'm going to say it again because it's really important. Just listen to the person and don't assume anything. Just
Mm-hmm.
listen to them, take what they said, and just keep it with you for like a week or so, and then you can discuss it later. And most of the time, a lot of stuff is not even worth it to fight about or to argue about. Um, yeah,
Well, I think sometimes when you're caught in the emotion and you're arguing on emotion, you won't necessarily be able to think about the nuances of what's going on with the cultural dynamics, what's going on, whether it's the personality trait dynamics. There's a lot of dynamics that go on in a relationship, and so if you get caught in the heat of the emotion, it's a lot harder to be conscious of all of that. Some kind of key takeaways after you think about where you and your partner are at, and this really applies even to other relationships too. So when you're in a cross-cultural relationship, it's not even just you and your partner, it's you and your partner's family members, their friends. They may be from different cultures too, and so any of those different personalities that you interact with, they may be at different places on these spectrums. So it's kind of good to know where people are at, and really no judgments. I mean, there's these spectrums are out there, but it doesn't make one person bad or the another just because they have a different personality trait.
yeah,
So some things that really will help increase your intercultural capabilities, um, especially when you think about all the dynamics that go on in relationships. Anytime you can have more knowledge of other cultures in general. So I shared an example from when I was a child, learning about my good friend's culture and Eritrean culture, getting country specific knowledge if they're from a different country. Really look at how many friends you have. I know this is a big topic that's come up as more discussions of diversity are happening in general. If your cross cultural partner is the only person that you know that's of a different culture than you, that's going to it's going to intensify the cross cultural dynamics because that'll be the only time you've ever had to deal with it. So the more you can make friends or really explore and get out of your own cultural bubble and look at other cultures, it's going to really help you in your cross cultural relationship. And there's so many resources and we'll go through in future episodes different ways you can get more country specific knowledge. There's a lot of great tools out there, but anytime you can learn about the history, even the
it helps.
geography, it really helps. Like the difference between Minnesota and Morocco is huge, and even within Morocco, there's a lot of geographic differences. I mean, you go from the Sahara Desert to the Atlas Mountains in Morocco where there's snow, so it's a wide range of climates and geographies even there as well.
And
Um,
like people's life are worth so much than just arguing about little stuff. Your life is so
mhm.
much more powerful, so much valuable, so much important. Just live it to the fullest. Don't waste your time fighting about and arguing about little things that don't even matter. Your life is worth so much more than that.
Well, and I think as we talk about arguments and things like that, the other issue that can come up in a cross cultural relationship is if there's any language differences. So, for example, English is my native language. Hamada is Arabic. So those are very different languages. And so there's different, whether it's different tones that are had, things like that. It's good for you to realize what the language differences are. But then also, if you're able to then learn about the language, even if you're not able to master it and speak it yourself, knowing a few different words will help. Knowing what the normal tones are is really important too. And then just in general, realizing how you can adapt your communication styles, especially around those 5 personality traits. If somebody is more introverted, really respect that and honor that. Maybe they need to just have a moment to themselves and collect their thoughts before they engage in a discussion. Like, I think knowing what people's personalities are and then really having that level of respect for it, and you can joke with each other in good natured fun,
Yeah.
but under that, you really have to have a lot of respect for each other. And this is one thing that I don't think it's talked about enough, but I do think that mindfulness is even more important when you're in a cross cultural context. And we'll go more into this in future podcasts, but I do think that the more you can be out of autopilot, so what that means is if you're just in autopilot, not really conscious or focused in the present moment, it's so easy just to get back into your old cultural pattern and not be aware of the other person's cultural pattern.
Yeah.
And so the more you can be mindful, whether that's through meditation practices, Hamada and I actually meditate together almost daily. We do a lot of meditation at night to help, just clear our minds before the end of the day.
And
And
just be happy right now. If the happy moments that you have in your life is right now.
mhm.
If you're trying to be like, oh, I want this so I can be happy, or I want that, or I want this house, or I want this bigger house, or I want this little car, you always, even if we give you like everything you wanted, you're always gonna find yourself catching up on new things. So the right moment for you is right now, and the happiest moment is right now. So always think about that, and don't play that catch up game. I think because you're gonna always, because life is full of unlimited stuff. You're always gonna want more. You're always gonna want more. Even if you give you everything you needed, there's always more. But if you are satisfied with what you have right now, you're always gonna be happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so those are hopefully some tips to help you think about different ways to engage in your cross cultural relationship. We're going to have a lot more content coming your way, different tools and things to help you navigate cross cultural relationships. We'll have more stories from our own cross cultural relationship. And please connect with us. We are on Instagram at Cross Cultural Couples. We're also connect with us on our website at www.crossculturalcouples.com. We would love to hear from you if you have any feedback, if you'd like to learn more information on a specific topic, if you have questions. We really want to hear from you and hear what's working for you in your cross-cultural couple, or what's not working. What are things that you need help with?
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening, and we will come back again next time with a new discussion. And I wish you the best, and take care and have a great day.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Bye bye.